Hi, welcome to Parenting and Teaching with Richie Huffman. I'm Richie Huffman, President and CEO of Celebrate Preschools. On these podcasts, we'll be talking to real parents, teachers about what's going on at home, in the classroom, and everything in between. I hope you find these conversations informative, helpful, sometimes funny, and sometimes serious. So let's go ahead and get started. Hi, I'm Richie.
And I'm Allie.
And we're here with Jen Nizer, Director of the Office of Child Care, and we're going to be discussing the importance of preschool accreditation. Welcome, Jen.
Thank you.
Hi, Jen. So great to have you with us today. So I want to start off by talking about who you are a little bit. I know Richie just gave your title, and we're here to talk about accreditation, but give us a little bit of background. Where did you start in childcare? What has your kind of career been to lead you to this point in your life?
Well, I started out as a teacher's assistant in a 2-year-old classroom a long time ago.
Okay.
And moved my way up into a teacher. Found out after going to college that I really loved education and early childhood education. So that's where I changed my path to go to Towson University and get my bachelor's degree in early childhood education, and moved myself up to a teacher, assistant director. I also taught a certified pre-K, certified kindergarten program in one of the child care programs in Kingsville, and eventually became director and went to my most current job was director at Johns Hopkins Bayview's Child Development Center, and I was there for 14 years. That was right before I moved to Florida.
Okay.
And then I left Maryland for about almost 4 years to be with my sister and my nieces. And then this position that I'm in right now came open. A great mentor of mine, Liz Kelly, was retiring, and she called me and said, would you be interested in moving back to Maryland?
I wish she would have called me.
Yeah.
I want that job. I dream of, after I retire from Celebrate, I want your position right now.
Really?
I think it's critical. I'm so excited for you to be in your new position, and I know without a doubt you're going to make a huge impact on this industry. So I'm really excited for you.
Thank you. I'm really excited about the opportunities too. I think that the Office of Child Care has had the same leadership for a long time, and it was great leadership, but I think that it's been a really welcomed change to our division. And, we also have a new state superintendent, assistant state superintendent, Stephen Hicks, and he is phenomenal and has an amazing vision for early childhood. And I think that we're moving in the right direction. I think, the branch chiefs that oversee many of the areas, Maryland excels, credentialing, licensing, child care subsidy, those are the branches that report to me, and they're very excited about the opportunities looking forward with just someone who is new and has different ideas and fresh ideas.
Well, you've always had a big voice in our industry, right?
Right. Yeah, I was the president of the Maryland State Child Care Association for about 6 years and remained the immediate past president even when I was in Florida. So I still had some influence there as a voting member while I was in Florida. And I think that, that was a great opportunity for me. It really gave me an opportunity to be part of the state on the state level, many committees. So when Maryland Excels was not Maryland Excels, our quality rating system, I was part of, hey, let's have a conversation about if we want to do a quality rating and improvement system in Maryland. And it just, circled from there. Yeah. And I think that, it was really, it's been very beneficial for me to have been involved in those conversations early and help build those systems that we have, such as credentialing and Maryland Excels, to where they are now, because I was able to have a more of a knowledge base to be able to move forward with things instead of having to kind of learn the systems.
Yeah, and it sounds like your knowledge, but your experience from starting at the beginning to getting here is just what makes you so good at what you do. Because as a former teacher myself, I love that one of the first things you said is that you started as an assistant and then a teacher, because people in the schools appreciate that when they have someone in charge and someone above them that knows what it feels like to be in that position. And I know, speaking as a teacher, that just makes you so much better already. You've had these experiences.
And I could also tell you, that's why I'm excited for Jen too, because as the CEO of Celebrate, I'm excited to have Jen in that position because of her background. Mm-hmm. I know she gets it, and I know she can relate to what the preschools go through on a daily basis and help guide us get to, we all want quality of care. Right? Can you talk to us a little bit exactly what does accreditation mean? I know a lot of our parents, when they come to tour Celebrate, they're looking for schools that are accredited. I'm not really sure if they truly they know it's it's a stamp, or it's a what's the word I'm looking for? It's a representation of quality of care,
Right.
but what does accreditation actually mean? To
and why it's important too. Why does that make your center more special?
So I think, first of all, accreditation is not something you can do very easily. It's something that pretty much you do a self-study of where you are, and depending on what accreditation you choose. We have the Maryland State Accreditation in Maryland that is a free accreditation for programs to go through, or you have the National Association for the Education of Young Children, NAEYC. They have their own accreditation also, which is really looked at as the gold standard in our field of accreditation. But I think that when you look at accreditation, it's something that really tells a parent that this program has taken a hard look at themselves, the teachers, the directors, and they have really made a commitment to look at their practices and make better decisions and better choices in those practices and move it forward.
But what is it? What about a parent though? When a parent walks into a non-accredited versus accredited school, what should a parent see immediately?
Parents should see great interactions with children from the staff. That's something that's extremely important in any accreditation that you go through. Is how do you improve those interactions with children and different techniques that teachers can use. And I think that you should see that very evident when you walk into a classroom of an accredited program. I think there's an administrative piece also that it should be. When you meet the director of an accredited program, they should be very knowledgeable about what accreditation is, the process that they went through to explain to parents that this has been it's a quality improvement initiative that the entire center says, yes, this is what we want to do together. If you don't have everyone on board, it's extremely difficult to get an accreditation. So I think that parents will also see health and safety being in the forefront in an accredited program. Assuring children's safety is, of course, important with any program, but with accreditation, it just takes it up to another level, where they look at the child staff ratios. So in Maryland, we actually have very good licensing regulations, which
some of the toughest, right?
Yes, across the country, probably the toughest across the country. And I think that we have very good ratios in Maryland of teachers to children, but in other states they don't have that, and they have many more children per teacher than we do in Maryland. So in the case of Maryland, we meet or actually exceed a lot of the accreditation ratios, which is very good for schools because that gives them a head start on that.
And I think sometimes that can be scary for parents. I was in a preschool the other day up in New Jersey, and I think the group size was like 16 infants in one room.
Wow.
Even though the ratio was 1 to 4, whatever it may be, but just the overall group size. So I think Maryland's done a really, really good job of raising the quality of care in preschool. So.
Yeah. And so you said the standards in Maryland are super high compared to other states. What is different about Maryland? I know you said that the ratios are something more appealing to parents because they're maybe a little bit smaller, but why are we so on point here?
I think that, Maryland's been in the forefront of everything, even the quality rating and improvement systems, our credentialing system, all of those things were things that Maryland thought about doing and kind of moved forward before a lot of states have done that. But as far as our licensing regulations, when I was in Florida, I worked for a program, and I was going around and visiting other programs in the area. And one of the things that, similar to what you experienced, Richie, was I went into a program that had 19 toddlers in a room. And
Party
if you
time.
can imagine,
Party time.
if you can imagine 19 toddlers, and they had the right staff to child ratio, but you have all these staff walking around and all these children that are toddlers. Right. It was just, I couldn't believe it. My mouth just dropped.
Right.
And in Maryland, we have things that are put into place to protect children and help teachers actually be able to do something with a group of children. Yeah. So I think that we have just always been on the forefront of that. And looking at our licensing regulations, we've really tried to put things in place that meet some type of the accreditation standard that, depending on which one you look at, meet some of those already, because it just makes it easier for us in Maryland to be able to have high quality programs if they're already meeting or are very close to meeting some of the accreditation standards out there.
So why, it's all for the benefit of our children, the communities that we serve. So why should a parent be so tuned into and looking for an accredited school?
I think that when you look at a school that's gone through accreditation and has taken the time to sit down and do a self-study and really look very closely at their practices and how their teachers are interacting with children, how their teachers are interacting with each other, what kind of benefits does the center offer their teachers, and there a lot of those things are going to make happy teachers and happy children. And I think when parents walk in, they need to know that is not something that's taken lightly, and it's not something that's easy to attain. So there are a lot of programs that are deferred when they go for their first initial accreditation visit from a validator. The validator comes in and they say, you know what, you have not met these 5 standards that we have, and you need to go back and you need to reevaluate.
Right.
And they may be deferred and not get accredited that first time. So, I think that it just really, it's important also for providers, directors, teachers to truly understand accreditation, to be able to tell the parents the processes that they went through and the gains that they received from going through those processes. So I think it's informing the staff that the staff in the program should be able to talk about accreditation just as easily as a director does, to really sell what they've done in order to improve their practices throughout the year-long self-study.
Yeah, and I like that it's such a team effort. It's not just the directors or the people in charge, so to say. It's a team effort, and the teachers care about it just as much. And I know we're waiting to hear from some of our own centers here at Celebrate, and the teachers and directors and people in the office are all just as excited. So it's cool to watch it kind of unfold as they're working through the process, and I'm sure they are excited to tell parents about it because they worked so hard to get there.
Well, when I was at Johns Hopkins Child Development Center, I had just come in to a program that had been pretty much well established, and it also had the same director for a long time before me, from the inception, from the time it started until I got there, and the teachers were the same. So it was a very stable environment, stable staff. And I walked in and I was like, this is going to be fantastic because I want to go through any EYC accreditation. And when I brought that up to the staff and I gave them the guidelines and the standards and they're looking at it, they were like, oh my gosh, no, this, and I said, I had to kind of step back for a minute and say, okay, wait a minute,
I wasn't a big fan. Like we were late adopters to this. I mean, I couldn't understand how much better can our program get. Our program is great.
It's great to have the outside validation, though, because you may think that there's a lot of people who think their programs are great that are not so great. But when you have an outside validator that comes in looking through eyes that, they're not clouded with the day-to-day operations and things like that, it really gives them an opportunity to look at things without having any preconceived notions about what the program has gone through or how it was built, how it was developed, anything like that. So, but when I was working with the staff at Johns Hopkins, I kind of stepped back and I said, okay, let's really look at these standards and these quality indicators. Tell me what we're doing to meet these criteria and tell me how we can do it better. And 99% of the criteria, we were able to say, yes, we're doing it. What we had to do was really say, how can we do it even better? So it really gave the staff there a different perspective, I think, saying, okay, we really are doing a lot of these things. We're just going to make ourselves better by doing this. So, and I think
getting that feedback is so necessary in schools all the time for everybody who works in a school, because you don't always hear it. And when change comes and challenges come, it's terrifying when you first see it.
And that's one thing that we underestimated. We underestimated what it did that would bond, right? You mentioned a little bit that bond our families and our teachers together, because this is not a company or a school initiative. This is a schoolhouse community initiative, right? We have parents that are helping us through accreditation and teachers, and it was such a rally call for us. I mean, because to your point, sometimes you can think you're really good till somebody points out some things that shows that you're not really that good. But what it did for staff and team morale and and teacher and parent bond to focus on, we're community and we're going to do this together. We totally underestimated that.
Yeah. And when I was in Florida, the school that I worked for down there, what we received, it was the first school that was accredited by Advanced Ed. And that is also an accreditation in Maryland now that is accepted. And Advanced Ed, one of the things that I really liked about that accreditation is we had to have some parents that met with these validators on their own by themselves in a closed room where they asked them lots of questions about the program and they were able to be completely honest.
Yeah, it's like you're going through a trial almost and you're getting exactly
but the
what
parents
you want.
really loved the fact that they were being brought into the process too.
Cool.
So I think that was something that was really positive in that environment too. And it's that way through every accreditation. You have to include your families. But I really liked the way that they were able to pull those families aside and say, while they're walking through the door, do you have a couple minutes to talk to me and tell me about your child and what you experienced while you're here? And they say really great things. And then there's other things that they say that may be things that we have to look at and say, oh my gosh, maybe we need to improve this. We didn't realize that parents felt this way.
But everybody's got to get, for the best interest of the child and to raise the quality of care, everybody's got to get a little vulnerable here, right?
Yep.
Both sides. This is, if you're, as you were a director of a school, it's hard to hear that kind of feedback. And I know for our parents it's hard to give that feedback, but it just brings that collaboration together and say, we're going to work on focus on this together for the best interests of our children in these communities that we serve. So.
So you do keep talking about validators, and I want to know a little bit more about them. So you said that they kind of walk in with a blind eye because they don't know much about the program, but who are your validators? How do you go about choosing them? What are they looking for when they come in, basically?
So in Maryland, we have different people that can come in and apply to be validators. We have a program that they need to go through in order to become a validator for Maryland, and it really looks at training them, but then also we have to have some type of reliability with them. So we need to make sure that they're looking at environments. A group of them are looking at environments and how closely that reliability is between all the validators looking at the same environment. It should be they all should be on the same page. And if that's not the case, then we need to go back and we need to do some more training until they do get that reliability factor. So that's really important, is that they're looking at the right things. They're looking at it the same way, because you don't want one validator to go in and say, this is fine, and then another one's to come in and say, no, that's not fine. And the provider is like, oh my gosh, why? One says yes, one says no. So we really try to make sure that they have reliability prior to them being able to go out and look at any classrooms. And NAEYC does the same thing. I know I had applied a long time ago to become a validator, and in my beginning of my career, and really it was a lot of training and going out to programs and going out with someone who is a reliable a reliable validator, so that
just shadowing for a while to watch how they're doing it.
Right. Okay. And they were very committed to that, and I think that Maryland has made a pretty good commitment to that too.
How many centers do you think we have under accreditation?
That's so funny, because today we were talking about that, and one of the things that we're struggling with right now, and we're trying to figure out a way to fix this problem, is that we do not get direct feeds from these organizations that are approved accreditors in Maryland. So we know how many are in Maryland accreditation, and to be perfectly honest, I can't tell you off the top of my head. I haven't pulled those numbers recently, but I know that we're trying to figure out how we can work with these other accreditation agencies so that they give us the information of how many of our Maryland providers are accredited by NAEYC, how many of our family providers are accredited by the National Family Child Care Association. And we're getting ready to do a pilot with the National Family Child Care Association on an accreditation model that they are looking into, that they're thinking about changing, which is really a great thing. There's coaching involved, technical assistance, which a lot of the family providers have said that they feel like that that's something that has been lacking in that accreditation for a while. So coaching and technical assistance and virtual coaching. So a kind of a cohort that goes through the accreditation together with family providers. So our only accreditation in Maryland for families is the National Family Child Care Association accreditation. So, we did create one for Maryland, for centers in Maryland, but we haven't done that for family providers. But we also have a we pay for those accreditations.
That's where I was headed next.
Yeah. So, we have a fund that, if you decide that you don't want to do Maryland accreditation and say, for instance, at Hopkins, of course, has a big name and they only want to do the cream of the crop accreditation. And that was NAEYC at that time because we came in Maryland Excels when it was just starting with Maryland Excels and we were going for accreditation. So we went through NAEYC accreditation. We pay for that. And if you go through that accreditation, we pay for all those fees.
Yep.
So all you have to do is apply and we take care of those things. So depending on where you feel like you want to put your resources, we pay for all family child care providers to be accredited through the National Family Child Care Association. So there should not be any obstacles in anyone's way in order to go towards accreditation. Right.
That's kind of where I was headed. I was going to ask that next question. Because most of our audience listens going to be parents that are looking for the benefit of accredited preschool, but the teachers that are listening, or maybe some of the directors that are listening, what reason could you possibly come up with that you would use not to get accredited? As you said, there's so many programs, and the state actually incentivizes you and pays you to get accredited. Can you?
We also reimburse materials that you need to purchase for your accreditation.
Wow, that's great.
So, we've really looked at this and we want to take as many obstacles out of the way of providers that we possibly can.
You guys have done a great job with that.
We want to make it easy for them. Now, the process is not going to be easy, and maybe that I think deters some. And I think some providers don't really understand the full meaning of what accreditation is and what it means to go through an accreditation, and that it's not something that they should be afraid of. They should look at this as a great opportunity to improve all their practices. And even if they can't improve all of their practices, just taking that really good look at your own program and your own teachers and your own self if you're a director or an owner, and seeing where you can have some improvements, just that in and of itself should be a benefit to anyone. Especially, bottom line is we're all here for children and families, okay? And for me, I want to make sure that, when my nieces were in an early childhood program, I want to make sure that they were getting the best possible experience that they could because they're mine. I look at now, I feel like all of Maryland's children are at my responsibility along with our division because we're the division of early childhood. And I think that providers need to have that same vision of all these children are coming to me, all these children are in my care. I need to do the best thing for them. And if going through accreditation and finding out that you may have some faults is the only way to do that, jump on board and come on and let's go. Because
set the goals.
Yes.
Yeah, make it even if it's for the future.
Right.
So if you are a brand new center, for someone who's just starting this process, what do they need to be doing right now? What are the very first steps in looking into this, even if they might not be ready for the jump, like information or starting steps for them?
So first, if they are a brand new center that's opened, you can't get accredited. You have to be open for at least a year before you can actually start applying for a self-study.
Step one, gotta get through a year.
Yeah. But in that year, you should start out thinking about the accreditation and having that be your model as you're working with staff and training staff, because that really, you need to let them know from the very start, this is where we're going.
Yep.
And we can't apply for it until after we're open for a year, but this is where we're going.
But the types of things that they need to do in that first year are available online? Are they resources that they can get?
We have them. We have in Maryland Excels, we have in that website that we have for Maryland Excels, there's also the accreditation portion.
Okay.
And I pulled a lot of things off myself about the accreditation in Maryland when I started here in MSDE. And, I was informing myself about what was out there. So we have all the accreditations that you can possibly go through on our website. We also have the information for, and with links that directly go to those websites that if a provider wants to go to NAEYC, they can certainly do that, or NECBA, whichever one they decide to choose. And I think that, it's really something that they can start looking at even before they get their doors open. And you start that process. You start the training process. You look at your training and how you're going to train staff, and you begin by looking at that and forming your getting your training plans together for your teachers, for parent nights and parent events, and how you look at family engagement. You have to look at all of those things, and you start from the beginning. That way, you don't get into bad habits that you have to change. You're starting off right.
Putting those expectations up there for the teachers.
But I would even say, even each one of those steps that we go through, you can, as you start to implement those steps, you can immediately start to see and feel a change within a preschool.
Absolutely.
So I agree with you. I mean, we just opened up a school in Pasadena. It's 4 months old, and we've already started the accreditation steps. So in a year, we can, as we call, push the button, and we're in it. But we've been practicing it for so long that we're so much more ahead when we do, so then we can push the button and go for accreditation.
Yeah, and you're very fortunate too, Richie. I mean, you have a very successful company. You have lots of programs out there, and they, high quality programs. And I think that, the benefit of doing that is that you've done it a lot already, and as you open up programs, you just put that in your playbook. As you open up another program and you found out something new that you really need to think about, you put that in the playbook, and you just that keeps developing.
But you got to remember, accreditation was not in my playbook.
I know it wasn't. I know, but you know what? I have to give you a lot of credit.
It is 100% in our playbook now.
Yeah.
It's. I mean, as I said before, I was not a fan, and I shouldn't say I wasn't a fan. I didn't understand, not instead of a fan. But it has definitely changed the way we do things here at Celebrate, and the quality is definitely a result of being accredited.
Yeah, I have to give you a lot of credit though, because I remember when you first started with doing Celebrate and your first program, and I remember those times, and I remember having conversations with you about over time accreditation, the quality rating system, and it was really you've come such a long way, and I have to give you credit for that, because I thought for a while there we weren't going to be able to ever turn you around to go in the right direction, but we have, and it's great.
You have, and in all fairness, I think the state has done an incredible job. I mean, the state of Maryland demands high quality programs and accreditation, and all these other programs that you have in place really supports us and these preschools. So
we also have, in addition to the accreditation pieces, we also have quality incentive grants. So, if a provider doesn't have a computer, for instance, they can apply for a computer, and we will get them a computer. So, there's lots of grants that we have in place, and lots of things that providers and centers can apply for to help with some of these processes, some of these things that people think are insurmountable obstacles. They really aren't. Just call us so that we can talk to you about it, and we would love to help more providers than what we're helping right now.
Is that a phone call, or can they go to
they can
a
go
website?
You can go to the website and pull it up. You can fill out the application there, but if you have questions, you can always contact the Office of Child Care, and we'll point you in the right direction to what who you need to speak to about that.
Okay. So what happens after that? What happens after we're accredited? What happens after?
Well, after you're accredited, of course, you get the certificate to put on your wall, and then you need to. First of all, it will move you into a higher level of Maryland Excels, which is our quality rating improvement system. And I do have to tell you, and give some credit where credit is due. Lindy Budd is the branch chief for Maryland Excels and accreditation, and she does an amazing job of making sure that everything is taken care of as far as that goes, making sure that the programs are at the correct levels, really puts a lot of time and energy into making sure that the program is really running properly and running well. And when you get accredited, you can move up in Maryland Excels, which means you have higher reimbursement rates for child care subsidy. So if your program is taking child care subsidy and you're not in Maryland Excels, you can get up to, at the higher levels, 44% of a tiered reimbursement on top of what you're already getting for child care subsidy, children who are receiving child care subsidy. So we've really tried to put some incentives in there. I mean, there was one school when I first came on board, and I was looking at some data that we had, that made an additional $38,000 just in the tiered reimbursement
to raise their quality of care.
Exactly. Wow. and they were an accredited school. They were at the highest level of Maryland Excels, because that's the way you get at level 5 is you're accredited. And $38,000 went into their pocket to increase increase the quality of their program,
Such a win-win.
to possibly offer benefits to their staff, all these things that improve quality overall and retaining teachers. They had the opportunity to be able to do some of those things that they would not have been able to if they didn't get that accreditation and move up in Maryland Excels.
And so how long does their accreditation last then? Is it 3 years? Is that correct? Until they reapply?
Some of them are they're different. There's some that are 3. There are some that are 5.
Okay.
So depending on which one you're looking at.
And then did they start the process completely over from scratch, or they obviously have a lot of things in place and they should have been continuing to grow and meet those standards during that time, but they basically go through the whole thing again? So
yes, but they also are, as they're going through, once they receive their accreditation, then they are required annually to give a program improvement plan.
Okay, so they're keeping up with it because they're required to anyway, so it kind of holds those standards up there for them.
Right, so that when they're going into it the next time, it should not be something that they're like, oh my gosh, we have to redo this all again, because they should be evaluating continuously and submitting that information to whoever the accrediting body is, to be able to make their program better over those years that they're not having somebody come in. Now, anybody can come in at any time. So at NAEYC, if you're NAEYC accredited, an NAEYC validator can come in at any time and look at your program
just to check
if there was a complaint.
Checklist.
Yes, if there's any major changes to your program and the structure of your program, you report that to your accrediting body. So, and they may come out to take a look. So there are some checks and balances throughout those years that you're not in your self study, and that that you have to keep up with those types of things.
Yeah. I was just thinking, like, how do we get all centers accredited, right? It's there is zero downside to an accredited center.
And the thing that we're trying to explain to people is that when you can say that you're in Maryland Excels level 4 or 5, and you're in the higher levels, even a 3. The Maryland Excels, the basic licensing regulations with maybe a couple other things, is level 1. And that allows you to be participating in the program. A level 1 is not. We are not talking about hotels where it's a 5-star hotel or a 1-star, and 1-star means that it's filthy dirty, and the 5-star thing is like it's squeaky clean. Maryland Excels is a quality initiative. So if you're in at level 1, it means you're doing something above and beyond what you're supposed to do for licensing that makes you that level 1. And then level 2, you're doing a little bit more than what is required. So, it's something that really, there's no reason why someone should not want to participate. And at this point, we have linked child care subsidy vouchers and the ability to take child care subsidy vouchers to people who are participating in Maryland Excels. So if you are not a participating provider in Maryland Excels, you will not be paid for any child who has child care subsidy coming into your program. And a lot of programs are heavily populated with families that have child care subsidy as their means of helping them to pay. And we're really encouraging parents to go towards those higher quality programs by giving them. We've just had some changes in the child care subsidy vouchers and the system there that we're hoping our governor just signed into law, increases over the next 3 to 5 years. Really great stuff happening, and we are trying to encourage families to really start looking and saying, what level at Maryland Excels are you? Oh, are you accredited? So at the case management level, we're informing families about these things that they should be asking providers and guiding them in the direction of these higher quality programs. So if you aren't in Maryland Excels and you are not accredited, you're probably not going to get you should go to this program from MSDE, or some of our locate counselors that work with providing families information on child care programs. They're looking at those higher quality programs that are participating in these quality initiatives before they're looking at the ones that are not.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if there's any correlation there of centers that are doing better because they are accredited or have more enrollment than those that are not.
I don't have that.
I would hope so, right?
I don't have the information, but I would practically guarantee you that their enrollment is better because we're making sure families are more informed. We have other things on our plate that we're looking at for the future to make sure that families are more informed than they are now. Campaigns that we want to put forth about different things that we want to make sure families are really making informed decisions and know what quality looks like and what it doesn't look like. So a lot of it is about affordability for families. That's really their number one, stickler, that they need to make sure that it's affordable. So by a program participating in Maryland Excels and them having more buying power with that child care subsidy voucher for a program that's a higher quality, it makes them want to go to those higher quality programs because they have more buying power with it, with that voucher now. So we're really excited about those opportunities families are going to have too.
Yeah. So again, there is no reason why, zero reasons why preschool should not be on the accreditation path.
Right.
We want our audience and our parents to be looking for, and knowing the difference in a high quality program on their accreditation.
It's an endless amount of benefits.
Yeah, and you get paid to raise the quality of care. So it's a win-win on both ends. The school wins because they're getting paid to raise the quality, and our families and our children win because they get a higher quality program. So, and
a program is not losing out any money by going towards accreditation because you get the money back.
Correct.
So we pay for it for you. So there's no downside to working towards accreditation. I would be actually interested in finding out why people may not want to be go towards accreditation and go in that direction, because we are going to be linking even more money, grants, things like that. We are linking those things to our accreditation. We are linking those things to Maryland Excels. You're not going to be able to apply for a grant if you are not participating as a higher quality program in these things.
So you're actually forcing us to be paid to raise quality.
We just really want everyone to understand the importance of this.
I gotcha.
And the importance of those environments we talk a lot about pre-K and the public school. Well, I always remind, and I've been going to a lot of meetings lately with different states, and a lot of talk is about pre-K and pre-K expansion and things like that. And I keep raising my hand and I keep saying, remember, birth through 4, we're building childcare. We're building those foundations for those children that you're going to get eventually. So remember us, because we're building the foundations. And I think that sometimes that needs to be a little reminder for some.
Well, thank you for all that you're doing through your department. I mean, it sounds like the amount of resources you're providing and the education you're even giving families on why this is so important is fantastic. And it's a great program that you guys are working on.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I've said this before. I mean, I'm so proud of you. I'm seriously. Again, we have somebody in the position that's been there, done it, understands. I'm happy and proud of the position you're in, and thankful for all the hard work you're doing.
Thank you, Richie.
Thanks,
I appreciate that.
And thanks
very
for being
much.
here today and educating all of us and our listeners on.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'll come back whenever you want.
You got it.
I can talk about all this.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today on Parenting and Teaching with Richie Huffman.
Thanks for tuning in, and remember, childhood only comes this way but once.
For more information, head on over to richiehuffman.com.
I'm Richie.
And I'm Allie.
And we look forward to seeing you again on another podcast.